When I was in Italy many moons ago, I stayed at a gorgeous bed and breakfast and they served a lemon and ricotta cake for breakfast. It was so delicious that I had to have the recipe, so here it is. I'm going to share it with you today. And what makes it really great is the use of lots of ricotta in the actual batter. So we're going to start in the classic way, soften butter and sugar, and we're going to whip that together. So into a mixer just like this one, along with some caster sugar, and I'm using unsalted butter for this. Always when you're baking, we're going to add some salt later on though. And we want to whisk this until it's really light and fluffy. Get some air in there before we add the ricotta. So we'll put that on a medium speed. Now, some ricotta on the market is quite wet and it won't work for this recipe. You need it to be firm and fluffy, just like this one. So we need about 420 grams of ricotta. All right, the ricotta has been incorporated nicely and you'll see that it looks a little bit grainy. That's totally fine. Now it's time to add the eggs. So I always like to add one egg, mix it really well, add another egg, and then the third egg. Then after that, I'm going to add the all-important lemon. So I like to use the lemon zest and the juice, so we really get a lovely hit of lemon. And of course, there has to be a little bit of vanilla bean paste in there too. All right, that's looking fantastic. Now time for the dry ingredients. And I like to incorporate this separately, just so we're gently folding in the dry ingredients. This will also make a difference to our end result. We'll get a lovely, beautiful crumb on our cake. So we'll just remove that from the mixer. In with our flour. So we'll just pour that straight in, along with a rising agent. So I just like to use some baking powder and the all-important pinch of salt. Okay, now we just gently fold that in so we're not activating the gluten too much in the flour. For this amount of batter, I'm choosing a 22 centimetre springform tin. I like to use springform because it's much easier to demold later on. I've also buttered it and I've used a little bit of icing sugar just around the sides. It not only caramelizes the cake, but also makes it easy for us to demold the cake. So in with the batter and just with your spatula, smooth it out so there's no air bubbles. That's looking good. Now, this is what I remember from the cake in Italy. It had lots of pine nuts as the garnish. So untoasted pine nuts, sprinkle them over the top and be generous with them. And look, if you didn't want to use pine nuts, you could absolutely use some walnuts. Even some almonds would work a treat. Sprinkle them out, give them a bit of a jiggle, and that goes into the oven. I like to cook mine for about 45 to 55 minutes at 160 degrees, or until a skewer that's been poked in the centre comes out clean. Now that's a lovely looking cake, and do allow it to rest for at least 20 to 25 minutes before demolding it. This cake's delicious warm or just at room temperature, and it does have a great shelf life. So if you don't eat it all in the first day, and that's if you don't eat it in the first day, by all means put it in an airtight container and it'll last for a couple of days. So we'll take it out of the mold. You can see the collar comes off really easily, and because we had that butter and icing sugar on the base, it should, oh, look at that, very easily transfer over to a plate. I like to always finish it off with just a gentle dusting of icing sugar, not too much because it is a breakfast style cake. And that is a thing of beauty right there. Now, we have to cut into it because I want to show you how amazing the ricotta is in a cake. So we'll cut a nice generous wedge. Oh, and look at that. See how it's slightly dense, it's super moist, and that's the magic of cooking with ricotta in cakes. That, with a little short black or a latte for breakfast, is the perfect way to start the day. Let me have a taste of it, see if it tastes like the one I had in Italy. The best thing about it is you can taste the lemon and you can taste the ricotta, which has got a really lovely smoothness to it. Because of the use of so much ricotta, the cake is foolproof. It won't dry out. It'll work time and time again.